Welcome back. In a suit because it's a good week. It's also a somber week. A little somber week. This is our last official week together in America at war. Trying to think of different directions to take this. Certainly, we'll try to add in a little bit of goofiness and randomness and humor and things like that. Hopefully more people than not have watched these. Today we're definitely talking about the D-Day invasion. That deserves a video on its own because it's arguably, and it really is, the most important single military event in human history. So it deserves its own day. I'll post some other videos and stuff on there too if you are curious more about it. You don't need to watch those, but just in case you do. Very much, I'll talk more about this in my final video for the class and stuff, but very much appreciate all the work you guys have done. This has not been the ideal way I wanted to end the class. I can safely say that the America War classes have been my favorite classes I've ever taught. I can tell I'm being serious here because I'm struggling to come up with what I want to say. Having never served in the military and having come from a military family and stuff, like, you always feel that you owe something. You owe something to the country. Like, and not that this class in any way, shape, or form does that, but I feel like if I can at least ingrain a little more appreciation into the men and women who serve in the armed forces and the sacrifices they make, and the sacrifices people have made for me, for you, they'll continue to make for us, so we can live free here in this country. That's a win and stuff. That's a big win. I'm really happy I got to talk to you guys about a lot of different things. Some people probably figured out sooner than later and stuff that really this is a class about leadership and human nature. How we react under the worst of circumstances reveals a lot of what our character is. And I think the military does that because war is hell, as Sherman said. It reveals a lot about who we are as human beings. And I think right now with what we're going through in the country, and there's light at the end of the tunnel, like things are getting better for sure. But in this time, hey, your character is revealed. Character isn't revealed in the good times. Anyone can be a good person when things are going well. True character and who you truly are as a human being is revealed during the bad times and during the times that are less than ideal. And I think that's what makes the men and women of the U.S. Armed Forces so amazing, that they continually conduct themselves in the highest of character and the absolute worst of circumstances. So a little bit different to start, less funny, less me singing, things like that. But here we go. The essential question is, this is a simple one. Why is D-Day so important? Like, why is D-Day such an important event? I have some notes written down here because D-Day is a big thing. It's a huge event. It takes some time to kind of go over. I know my hair looks ridiculous. No hair stylist available. So if anyone that's willing to cut my hair, let me know. So let's go over the why first. Okay, here's why D-Day occurs. In World War II, we knew we needed to have two fronts. That we needed to put pressure on the Germans from both sides. And so the idea was at some point in time we were going to have to invade through France to put pressure on the Germans. Beginning in 1943, over a year before June 6th, the actual day of D-Day, that's when the planning began. It was originally called Operation Sledgehammer. It changed to Operation Overlord. D-Day isn't the name of the operation, it's just a day. Like, D-Day is just Destination Day, the day that the event happens. The official name is Operation Overlord. Here's just a rundown of just some of these numbers, and this is incredible. It is the largest amphibious invasion in human history. No invasion from sea to land has ever been as big, and hopefully will never be as big. We have over 156,000 soldiers involved in this land invasion, 6,939 ships, 2,395 aircraft, 867 gliders. There's over 450,000 tons of ammunition, so that's bullets, bombs, etc. There's over 7 million tons of supplies needed for this. There's a reason why this thing takes over a year to plan, just from a logistical standpoint. What we know today, we win at D-Day. We win. That was not a for sure thing on the morning of June 6, 1944. And the planners, so Eisenhower, Churchill, Roosevelt, all these military commanders, political commanders who had their hands in this operation, they were trying to make sure they left no stone unturned. And I think one of the other reasons why not really ending with D-Day because we have one more video, but like talking about D-Day is so important is everything we've talked about with like von Clausewitz and Sun Tzu. And I know some people have figured this out right away. Other people took them a little longer. Some people are learning it right now. Is the lessons of von Clausewitz and Sun Tzu are timeless lessons. It doesn't matter if you never serve a day in the military. You interact with other human beings. You can learn from von Clausewitz and Sun Tzu. And D-Day is almost like the perfect von Clausewitz Sun Tzu battle. On the one side, deception. Sun Tzu and von Clausewitz, you deceive your opponents. You use intelligence to your advantage. One of the things they do is it's called a phantom army. They take George Patton and they give him command of this phantom force of fake tanks, fake people. They blow up tanks, blow up airplanes, and they let the German spy planes see it. So they thought that Patton was in charge of the invasion, and they thought the invasion was going to come at Calais, which is the closest point between England and the coast of France. And because of that, that's where the Germans put all their tanks. That's part of the deception. Another part of the deception was the British, who, other than the Soviets, were the best at this, was spying and using double agents. They were turning German agents against the Nazis and having them secretly spy for the British. They were giving German agents that they knew were spies purposefully false information about where the landing would take place. The ruse was so incredible that what they even did was, there's a Netflix documentary about this called the Jack King Affair. They took a dead British soldier, like who had passed away. They put a bunch of false intelligence in the breast coat of his like pocket and stuff, and they just floated him out in the English Channel, knowing that he would probably wash up on the shores of France, like when they knew the tide was going out that way. And all the information there was fake information about where the landing was going to take place. The Germans get this, and they believe now, oh, we've like somehow found this great piece of like intelligence. And so when D-Day actually happens, the Germans are prepared, but they're not prepared in the right spot. So that's the deception component of it. But even with all that deception, the challenges the Allies face, the British, the American, the Canadian troops, it's pretty tremendous. First, this has never been done before. This has never happened where this amount of human beings have tried to actually land amphibiously before. This has never happened. About 2 months before the actual D-Day invasion, they did like a mock invasion to see what would happen. It was a colossal disaster. Almost 1,000 Americans are killed during this disaster. And so you have a lot of decision makers realizing that, like, as well planned as this is still an uphill battle. You add in the fact that the Germans had constructed about 2,400 miles of fortifications called the Atlantic Wall. This included over 4 million landmines and other obstacles. This Atlantic Wall legitimately was a wall. It was bunkers elevated over the beachhead so that from the landing craft to the actual beach or to the actual bunkers is about 200 yards. In that 200 yards, you were facing obstacles, landmines, you were facing a machine gun fire that was pretty well triangulated, you were facing barbed wire. The sand was, they flooded the area so that transports couldn't get in certain places, so the tanks couldn't get on the beachhead. So you have those challenges as well. The fact that Germans knew that there are only 2 beaches the Allies could land at, Normandy or Calais, because they're the only 2 beaches big enough for that. That even though they weren't entirely prepared at Normandy, they were prepared enough where they had 50,000 men there in highly fortified positions. Also, there's another like X factor in this too, that bad weather. The English Channel is very difficult to cross on a good day. You add in rain that would ground U.S. Air Force and paratroopers. You add in stormy seas. That the actual invasion was supposed to happen on June 5th, but the weather was so bad that Eisenhower delayed it for the 6th. There was a small break in weather on the morning of the 6th, and that's what, geez, my hair is ridiculous. And that's why they decided to go through with it on June 6th. Even then, with all that, Eisenhower writes 2 letters. One is a very like simple letter saying, okay, we've taken the beachheads and we'll move forward. The other one was basically acknowledging it's going to be a complete failure. And he kept both of them in the breast coat of his pocket because on June 6th that morning, he had no idea what was going to happen. There's a famed quote where he gets to a bunch of paratroopers and tells them the fate of the world is in your hands. The eyes of the world are upon you. So this is the ultimate high-stakes battle. We lose here, we lose World War II. And I think maybe that's one of the other interesting things about World War II, that so many of these battles are, we win, like, we can win the war, or if we lose, the war's over. Very few other wars have these, like, high stakes where one battle can determine that much. D-Day does this, okay? So the actual battle itself, again, it's extremely well planned out, but war's human. And as well planned as you can be, ultimately at the end of the day, human beings have to be the ones who conduct the operation. The 5 beachheads are Utah, Omaha, Gold, Juneau, and Sword. The 2 we're going to talk about are Utah and Omaha, because they're the 2 American beaches. Around 1 a.m. that morning, paratroopers from the United States began landing, well, through all 3 countries, but primarily the United States began landing behind enemy lines, sabotaging roads, cutting communication lines, killing enemy soldiers, so they can't reinforce, so they can't communicate once the attack actually happens. Unfortunately, many of these paratroopers are killed. They were flown off course. They had a tough time finding where their objectives were. Again, the weather was a huge factor. It's amazing that the paratroopers were as effective as they were softening the German defenses before the actual attack occurred. Around 5 a.m., U.S. airplanes and battleships began bombing the beachhead to soften up the Atlantic wall. In some areas, this was extremely effective. In other areas like Omaha Beach, it wasn't. And so when the soldiers finally landed around 6 a.m. at Omaha Beach, it wasn't an unmitigated disaster, but it was a bloodbath. Of the 29 amphibious landing craft, only 2 made it to Omaha the way they should have. Because of the seas and stuff and the wind, ships were in the wrong areas, landing craft were in the wrong areas. This could have been a complete disaster, but individual leadership that morning changed it. Theodore Roosevelt, the fourth one we talked about earlier, he earns his Congressional Medal of Honor for even though he landed on the wrong beachhead. He begins reorganizing troops and getting to where they need to be. Individual soldiers, the boys of Ponte Ho as they're called, they repelled up the Atlantic wall to take out the bunkers, even though they're basically just letting themselves be sitting ducks to do it. Again, the individual heroism on the morning of June 6, 1944, especially at Omaha Beach, might be unprecedented in American history. That 200-yard crawl from the landing craft to the wall itself was hell on earth. On Omaha Beach, 24,000 Americans are killed. Like, that's an astronomical number for such a small beachhead. The beaches are taken, though. The combination of air power, the combination of just the fighting spirit of the American soldiers, the combination of the paratroopers the day before, that's what wins the day. In all, about 5,000 Allied soldiers are killed. German numbers are tougher to come up with that. By June 11th, all 5 beachheads are officially taken and now used as landing places for supplies and for men. And this begins the slow crawl to us winning World War II. Once we have that foothold in France, it's only a matter of time before we win. Us on one side, the Soviets on the other, slowly driving the Germans back, forcing them to fight a 2-front war. On these beachheads, by the end of the war, about 2.5 million soldiers went through these beachheads. Over 4 million tons of supplies went through these beachheads. Again, this is what kept the war going for the United States, for the British, for the Canadians, just for the Allies in general. It's an absolutely amazing thing we were able to win the way we were. Today, if you have a chance to go to France, one of the things I would definitely say is please visit the memorial at Normandy. It's gorgeous. There's a number of presidents who've made speeches there. One of the most famous ones is the Reagan Memorial Day speech, or the D-Day anniversary speech. I'll link that in there. It's considered to be one of the best speeches in American history about military and stuff. It's the most important battle in human history. It's one that would make Sun Tzu and von Clausewitz very proud. So up here, okay. Why is D-Day important? You can go a lot of directions with this. One, just I had a very basic thing. It leads to the end of World War II. D-Day leads to the Germans slowly losing the war. Again, the war's going to last for about another 9 months, but the writing's on the wall. It creates a second front for the war that the Germans do not have the manpower or the industrial might to deal with. And so winning World War II is a really big impact, a really big reason why D-Day matters. If you want to go maybe more from a tactical or strategic side in this, This lays the groundwork for how large operations need to be conducted. You need the perfect combination of planning, intelligence, logistics, supplies, and great leadership to make this stuff happen. And sometimes we do a great job of learning from this and utilizing this. The Gulf War is a prime example of that, of taking a lot of these lessons of D-Day and applying them. The Incheon landing during the Korean War is a great example of this. There's also other times where we fail in this. We fail in understanding the lessons of D-Day, of the combination of intelligence, of logistics, of how everything needs to come together to make these large-scale operations work. And so D-Day is certainly an example of that. And honestly, it's an example you can take in the real world. If individuals who want to go into business, individuals who really want to do anything like big with their lives, you need to have a combination of everything: intelligence, leadership, logistics, planning for what's going to happen when something doesn't go right. D-Day satisfies all of these things. And it really is like, it's the perfect von Clausewitz Sun Tzu battle. Or it's not perfect, like it's far from perfect, but it's how they deal with those imperfections and those challenges during the battle that makes it so good. And on top of that, the fact that like it really does prove at the end of the day, war is human. War is human in a battle of wills. We wanted it more. On June 6th, 1944, we wanted it more than they did. So write down those, the essential question. Come with 2 questions for that. Again, one more video. This one's less funny. I'll admit it. It's less funny, but it's a big deal. D-Day's a big deal. I'm going to miss this class. I'm going to miss you students in this class. For some of you, this is the end of the road for us. For other ones, we get one more abbreviated quarter with each other. But I thank you for all the hard work you guys have done, especially dealing with these videos and the corona stuff and the quarantine and a lot of really cool things that I know you guys wanted to do and wanted to experience, kind of taken from you to no fault of your own. You guys are doing a great job. Keep up the good work. Believe in yourself. Believe in the country. Wash your hands. Stay safe. Social distance. Someone get me a haircut. All right.